My stepson Sean is 18, he's in university. He lives with his dad and me so he can attend school in our city. His mom lives on an acreage about 40 kilometres north of town, so that would be quite the commute. I didn't really want him in my house, but my husband insisted and promised me that Sean would behave. He would clean up after himself and not cause me any problems. He isn't a bad kid. He does his chores and keeps to himself mostly. He had some trouble staying up late and being disruptive when he got here last summer, but we got that sorted out. My husband and I have a toddler daughter. Sean is very friendly with her and has babysat her a few times. The problem is he smokes so much. I'm surprised he isn't failing out of school. I personally don't care, except we agreed he would smoke outside or in the garage, and he's been smoking up in his room. 3 problems. My daughter doesn't need to smell it. It stinks. He has the window open, so we're paying to heat up the house constantly. I spoke with my husband and told him that Sean wasn't following the rules we'd agreed to. Therefore, he had one more chance, then he had to find somewhere else to live. Sean said he was sorry and he promised he would behave. He even showed me that he bought edibles so he wouldn't affect his sister, stink up the house, or need to open his window. It was fine for 2 weeks and then he did it again. So I kicked him out. I packed up his crap and took it to his mum's place, and I had the lock codes changed. When he got home from school, he lost it. He said I was a controlling witch and didn't have any right to tell him what to do in his father's house. I laughed in his face. I told him that the only house his father ever bought was the one his mother lived in. His dad is my husband, but they both live in my house. I guess he didn't know that and he started apologizing. I called him an Uber to take him to his mother's. He didn't go and he called my husband instead. My husband made arrangements with his brother for Sean to move there. His mom drove all his belongings back into town and now he isn't my problem. Unfortunately for Sean, his uncle is completely against his hobby, so he can't have any there, and he's currently sleeping on a hider bed. His dad, uncle and himself will build him a room in the unfinished basement this weekend. My husband has been on my side since Sean broke our agreement. His mother is salty about having to come into town, and Sean is begging me to let him come back. Edit, we live in Canada. Not the idiot, because you repeatedly told him the rules and he continued to disrespect them. Yes, that stuff is legal, but it doesn't mean you can do it anywhere in other people's homes or that it's appropriate around young children. You also gave him reasonable alternatives, so I'm not sure why he can't just go to the garage. Also, the attitude switch when he realised it was indeed your house. But you do come across a bit smug about this and not like a loving stepmother. You're not wrong about this specific situation, but generally you don't sound like you're doing all this with his best interest at heart. You don't sound like you're doing this with his best interests at heart. Excuse me, exactly how should she sound when the grown adult living in her house breaks a reasonable request, don't smoke inside the house? How should she have reacted after repeated conversations with said grown damn adult? That's the part that blows my mind. She didn't kick him out for smoking, she kicked him out for disrespecting her rules. She never said he couldn't smoke, just not in the house. In fact, OP sounds very reasonable and understanding, but one can only tolerate so much disrespect before they've had enough. Music is legal and you can still get kicked out if you listen at high volume. Bikinis are legal, but if you go to work wearing one, you may get asked to go home and change. The fact that something is legal doesn't mean there is no proper time and place to use it. Disagree, this isn't about him or the smoking, this is about you. You flat out don't like him, and I'm assuming because he dared to be born to another woman. You found a reason to kick him to the curb. The whole my is disconcerting here. You literally just admitted they're just people living there at your grace. I laughed in his face to a kid who just lost his home. That's why you are the idiot here. The sheer joy you're getting over this massive power trip. Having the stepson move out is one thing, he broke the rules, but the sheer enjoyment you get just shows an extreme lack of character. I just got state certification to cut hair and am working at a national franchise chain to get experience to hopefully work somewhere more exclusive. When I was in school, I would give my family free haircuts for practice, but my sister never took me up on the offer, which made last night even stranger. I should add that I have 8 siblings, she and I are the youngest, and we never got along growing up. She texted me and said her kids had some award ceremony for science today and wanted to know if I could cut their hair. I said we were absolutely slammed, the wait was over an hour, so just sign in on the app and come in when it told her to. She came in and she was so rude and just hovered over me the whole time, almost like she was waiting for me to screw up. I was told there would be customers like this, so as much as she was annoying me, I just dealt with it. Finally, after I was done with both kids, she tried to give me $3. Yes, 3 $1 bills. I asked her what that was for. She said it was my tip since the haircuts were free. I told her the haircuts couldn't be free. I was doing this on store property in the middle of the rush and I had to charge her. Without saying a word, she grabbed her kids and walked out. A nice lady who was apparently watching the whole thing said I needed to call the police. I said she was my sister, but she cut me off and said even more so I needed to call the police. So I did, and they must have been close by because they were there in minutes. They said there wasn't a whole lot that could be done, but they said they would take a report and talk to my sister. They must have gone straight to her house because our family text absolutely blew up with her trying to get people on her side. Almost everyone took her side initially, but as I explained myself, people turned on her. But I think in the end, about 2/3 think that I'm an idiot for getting the police involved and I should have handled it in the family. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. She was stealing from your employer, not just you. The old lady was right. You needed to call the cops to protect your new job, not because they might arrest your sister. If she didn't pay and someone in your workplace had a problem with it, corporate and ownership would be all over you. By calling the police, you shut down anyone thinking you decided to give the kids free haircuts. Yep, a client steals from a store where you work. Period. Is it your sister? Is it a stranger? Don't care. It's stealing. Your sister is an entitled idiot. Just deflect blame and tell them when a customer walks out without paying, this is the procedure. If any family member doesn't understand why you had to call, you've just identified future problem clients. It's nice that you got that out the way early, huh? OMG, sister sounds awful. $3 tip for 2 haircuts she wasn't going to pay for? Even if you'd gone to her house after hours and cut the kids' hair, I'd still expect her to give you more than $3. Hun, you should not feel bad about saving your job. Unfortunately, your sister put your job in danger because I'm assuming, like any hairstylist, you're renting this chair and have to pay a monthly fee for it. This past weekend, I went to dinner with my husband's family for my father-in-law's birthday. We brought our 2 kids, a preschooler and a sibling a couple of years older. My husband's sister ordered a martini when we got to dinner. I reminded her that our kids were here and I would appreciate it if she didn't drink in front of them. My husband and I think it's inappropriate. My husband and I enjoy a drink every now and again too, but we do not drink when our kids are present, only when we have a night out without them. Father-in-law and mother-in-law respected our wishes and didn't order any drinks, even though they usually ordered a few bottles of wine. His sister is notorious for getting tipsy at family dinners. We don't want our children to see that. I pointed out to her that she was the only one at the table who ordered a drink and that it was a little embarrassing that she was the only one who was drinking. My mother-in-law told me to drop it, so I did, and my sister-in-law ended up ordering 2 more martinis and of course was tipsy. The rest of the dinner was awkward because of sister-in-law's drinking. Everyone left as soon as the meal was over with no dessert or coffee when usually we would stay and mingle over a coffee or go back to one of our homes. Sister-in-law's husband has to drive them home because she was tipsy. My husband has been quiet, and finally this morning, as he was getting ready for work, he told me he wished I wouldn't have said anything and I was the one who ruined things. I told him it was his sister's drinking that made everyone uncomfortable. I know she's young and has no kids, but I don't feel a family dinner with kids in attendance is the place to drink and get tipsy. I don't think not drinking in front of children is too much to ask. She can do that at home or when she's with her friends. I'm just trying to be a good mom and look out for my kids. She doesn't have kids of her own. She had her husband there as a designated driver, as responsible drinkers do. She got tipsy, not wasted. She doesn't have to abstain because your kids are present. It was her father's birthday celebration, not your personal celebration. Your mother-in-law asked you to stop. Your own husband says you were wrong. You are the idiot. Not to mention, I am 100% sure the awkwardness and leaving early was because of OP and not sister-in-law's moderate drinking. If we all had a videotape of the dinner, things would look very different than what was described above, and the source of the awkwardness would be revealed. I wouldn't enjoy being married to you. I bet the parents were eager to go home to crack open a bottle of wine and complain about their daughter-in-law. It's a party. Stop policing the behaviour of others. If you don't want people drinking around your kids, don't bring your kids to restaurants. You're the one that made it awkward. Your sister-in-law did nothing wrong. Does anyone believe you did this to be a good mom and look out for your kids? You need to accept this and also apologise for your controlling behaviour. My girlfriend Sarah and I had been discussing taking a road trip for a while due to the stress we had both been under. It was my tween daughter Emily's weekend with me, so it meant she'd be coming along with us. We decided to make the trip on Emily's weekend with me, and Sarah's Yorkie puppy Daisy had to come along. I informed Emily that she had to stay in the car and watch Daisy while Sarah and I made a few stops. Emily seemed to understand and was content playing on her iPad and eating snacks. After a few stops, however, Emily started acting strangely. I asked her what the matter was, and she said she was getting bored. I told her, "Sorry, hun," but she knew what she was in for from the get-go. We could all do something together later. Emily reluctantly agreed. At one point, I stopped at a gas station to buy a drink and Sarah went to use the restroom. When I returned, not even 15 minutes later, the back door was wide open and Emily was crying next to the car. Daisy was gone. Emily confessed that she was bored and wanted to get out of the car, and Daisy jumped out. Unfortunately, traffic was too heavy for her to run after him. We drove around looking for Daisy with no luck, and Sarah was inconsolable. I was so angry and disappointed with Emily that I couldn't even look at her. I tried to explain to her why what she'd done was wrong, but she just kept crying. The road trip was cut short, and I dropped Emily back at her mom's house. Emily was really upset, but I was still mad and couldn't speak to her. I was too mad to even hug her or say goodbye. Her mom called me cruel and conniving, but I told her it was awful what Emily had done to Sarah's dog. I felt so helpless. I wanted this weekend to be good for all of us. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Why are you leaving your tween daughter in the car alone? Why do you guys get to stretch your legs and see things and she doesn't? Why couldn't you all get out with the puppy on a leash? And last but not least, why was your tween left in charge of an untrained puppy when there were two fully capable adults, one of whom is the owner of the dog? Did you plan this trip for the weekend your daughter was there just so you could have a built-in puppy sitter? You were thinking only of yourself and gave no consideration to your daughter. As a dog owner, I do feel sorry for your girlfriend. I would be inconsolable if my dog ran away, but you guys are the adults and responsibility ultimately falls on you, not the literal child. So much this. It's still Sarah's dog, not Emily's. If the humans are getting out for a bio break, the puppy most certainly needs one too. And you, OP, were getting a drink. You should have waited with your child until the other adult returned from the restroom or had Sarah buy the drink for you. And then you had the unmitigated cruelty to punish your child for your selfishness and stupidity after putting her safety at risk. Dad of the year, man. Not to mention, she said she was getting bored. I told her sorry, hun, but she knew what she was in for from the get-go. And I'll repeat, you knew what you were getting yourself into. Man, what is actually wrong with you? Get a vasectomy. Stop being a selfish parent and put your kid first. Why wasn't the dog in a carrier? It's a Yorkie. I highly doubt there'd have been no space left in the car. It's safer for any sort of dog to travel in a carrier made for the purpose. One uses a child seat to keep their kids safe, so why not extend the same courtesy to the dog? I don't feel sorry for your girlfriend. She is a crappy pet owner. Point of order, where the heck is the dog? So you just wandered around looking for a bit and then went home? Just left a small dog in a strange area and called it a day? This turns into, we abandoned a dog and blamed our daughter. If you left the dog in the area without exhausting every resource to find him, go back to where you were, ask around, put up posters, check the shelters and leave your daughter alone. My son, nearly adult, has apparently been in the closet for the past 7 months. So my son is fairly masculine, straight acting, if that makes sense. However, he's very obviously had a boyfriend 18 for the past 7 months. He sometimes baby talks to this boy, hugs him all the time, calls him handsome, shares clothes and sits way too close to each other to the point where they're basically cuddling. He closes his bedroom door when with him but not any other friends, sees him every day, buys him gifts, and for the past 7 months he's always smelled great, has his hair fixed really nice and dresses nicer, among other things. Today I asked my son if he would invite his boyfriend on our trip and he got awkward and said, "That's not funny." I asked what he meant and he said, "I'm straight, that's not funny." I laughed, and when I realised he was serious, I started laughing even harder. I told him he was very obviously in a relationship with a guy and did a terrible job at hiding it. He got emotional and started asking me not to tell his dad. My husband already knows, as I said, it was obvious. Then he got upset saying I outed him when he wasn't ready. He hasn't said a word to me in a couple of days. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. He might not have realised how obvious it was, and it is a scary time for him, and you laughed at him. You are his mother, and he should be able to count on support when he's scared, not ridicule. You're wrong for minimising his fears and for not realising that his fears are there because you haven't done the groundwork for establishing that he'd be safe to come out to you. Agreed. Reactions like this, along with a basic lack of trust, are why my mother didn't find out I was bi until I was almost 30. Great job, OP. Intended or not, that interaction has your son questioning you and his trust in you. I hope your relationship has a solid foundation and this didn't just sink a nail in its coffin. As a gay man, some of y'all need to get over yourself. OP's not the idiot. Yes, he had to come out at an unexpected moment, but maybe don't suck so bad at hiding it. I mean, it's terrible we have to hide anything at all, but if you're not ready for people to know, don't go round showing off things that obviously give it away and then get mad when someone has connected the dots. Especially if that someone isn't even being malicious about it and has no way of being aware of what the entire situation even means. Agree. If he'd been doing all the same things with a girl and you called her his girlfriend, nobody would say you're an idiot. If it had been a girl and the whole family picked up on the chemistry, again, no big deal. Why would you be an idiot for treating him and his boyfriend the same way? I'm in favour of accepting and not treating them like they're some anomaly. OP, but maybe apologise for the giggle and get him some snacks.